To support me and this channel, please consider purchasing my novel, Gideon Star: The Shields of Gideon Prime, available on Amazon.com. Thank you so much for your support, and remember, keep writing. Welcome back. My name is Neil Charon, and this is the Gideon Star Chronicler. I came across a video of Ben Affleck promoting his movie The Way Back on Jimmy Kimmel. And in the middle of the interview, he mentions his son's 8th birthday. And his son is a big Star Wars fan. And Ben Affleck is working with Adam Driver. And he mentions to his son that he's actually working with Kylo Ren, as opposed to saying Adam Driver. And his son basically proceeds to lose his mind. That his dad is working with Kylo Ren, and what began an emotional roller coaster for me was when the son asked if it was the good Kylo Ren as opposed to the bad Kylo Ren, and that brought me back to my own childhood. I mean, the whole interview, the beginning of the interview in particular, Ben Affleck is talking about his love for Tom Brady, and that Tom Brady is like a real hero to him, and basically always makes him feel like a little kid. And then you have his son, who is a huge fan of Kylo Ren, and just sort of the mention of it, just makes his son light up. And Ben tells this wonderful story of this very thoughtful thing that Adam Driver did for his son's birthday. And I'll put a link in the description below because you have to see it for yourself. But it absolutely just brought waves of emotion, and it reminded me a lot of my childhood. And I cannot begin to tell you. You can probably tell by my channel by now that I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't try to do exclusively Star Wars. I'm very more interested in storytelling as a whole. But when I reach back into my memories, Star Wars sort of was always there. And for me, my childhood hero is Luke Skywalker. I remember a video of Adam Scott being interviewed by Kristen Bell. And in the midst of it, she mentions to Adam how he was a big Luke Skywalker fan, and even wrote to Mark Hamill to come to his birthday. And Mark Hamill appears on the show, and for me, with a green lightsaber, by the way, and for me, again, just a wave of emotion washed over me. I believe I would play it cool, and I have bumped into some celebrities, just throughout life here and there, and have played it cool. But I do think I would probably lose it with Mark Hamill. I really do. I think I would be a puddle. I would become the 8-year-old boy again, and just like Ben Affleck's son, just absolutely just lose I wouldn't even know who I was, where I was, and what was happening. And this sort of brought forward to me, what is this? I mean, I'm listening to Ben Affleck tell a story, and the story is just this wonderful story, and he's being a storyteller to us. Just Jimmy Kimmel is graciously letting him have this forum, this platform to let us in on this story that's just an absolutely wonderful story. And there was also a video that came into my YouTube, I can say auspiciously, as opposed to an algorithm, that came from Film Crit Hulk, titled Why Star Wars Works. And it's all about storytelling, and it takes you through, and again, especially towards the end, where he focuses on the character of Han Solo and Han Solo's return, and the setup for that. I'll put a link in the description below for the video from Film Crit Hulk. I really think that you guys should check it out. But it really, funny enough, he leaves out what I think is one of the best aspects of Star Wars, the original Star Wars, is when Obi-Wan Kenobi gives Luke his father's lightsaber. And for me, it was very much a hearkening back to Merlin giving Excalibur to King Arthur. And I'm actually surprised he kind of skipped over that, because I really feel that moment above all other. For me personally, that moment above others, when Obi-Wan gives Luke the lightsaber and then Luke ignites the lightsaber, that is what makes Star Wars Star Wars. That moment, in a nutshell, just it's a quiet thing. There, Star Wars is being made to be like an everyday thing. Oh, there's droids and there's the little hut, and oh yeah, we go to outer space. It's just sort of all commonplace, all everyday. The actual elevation outside of the everyday is the lightsaber, and then the Death Star. These are the things that elevate. So ordinary Star Wars is you're a moisture farmer that has droids, and these droids have personalities and are basically somewhat sentient, and that's ordinary Star Wars. And you have the ability to be in vehicles that levitate and even go into outer space, and it's just sort of ordinary every day. That's what was brought. This is just everybody's ordinary day. They're living in the Star Wars, and that's it. But then you have the lightsaber, and that part of it brings you out of the everyday. So the commonplace of Star Wars is brought out, and then you have the aspect of the Force. So that whole thing together is what makes Star Wars, for me, in my opinion. For me, this is what storytelling is all about. And when you think about it, you think about your childhood hero, you think about just watching your child or another child, or the child in yourself, the recall, all of these things. Star Wars brings me back to a place in time. That is its magic. I remember that age, that stage, so vividly, anchored to Star Wars, particularly Return of the Jedi. And Luke Skywalker was always my favorite. I wanted to be a Jedi. I wanted Jedi Master Skywalker to train me. And it just reminds me of how powerful storytelling is. It just reminds me, and then I go into this part. It goes, just why? What is it? What is this emotion? I mean, obviously these characters aren't real. They're played by actors who have their own lives and so forth. But what is it? What is it within us, especially as children, where that pretend is so real? That Kylo Ren, good Kylo Ren, is so real and is a hero and is my hero. What is that? And can we explore that a little bit? And the idea is that storytelling brings something out of us, oftentimes that we can't describe, oftentimes that we don't even know where it's coming from. George R. R. Martin often says he doesn't know exactly where his story ideas come from. They just come. I can also say, in a similar vein, when you're the recipient of storytelling, you don't know where these emotions come from too. How we pull toward one character or another, how we feel these emotions, how we go through so many aspects, why it means so much to us. These are all questions. The thing is though, oftentimes, especially in these kinds of situations, you can ask the questions, it's important, but you realize you're just living it. You're just living through it. You're being told in this span of a time, whether it's a book and it takes a few days or a movie and it takes a few hours, you're being told these stories and they take you someplace else. They take you away. That's a benefit. They maybe offer some message and theme. That's a benefit. They might be uplifting, or maybe are there to make you change your mind or have a change of heart, or realize something you didn't realize about yourself. That's a benefit. Why we come to stories and why we appreciate storytellers is very evident to us. But the stories themselves, there's some magic in there that just belongs in the human experience that we can't exactly describe. So we leave it to stories to help us. So you could sort of say, in a funny sense, I've always believed that love, hate, anger, fear, joy, happiness, all of these are emotions that come from a place. And rather than name the place, rather than give that place a name, we describe the emotions. But they all come from the same place. They all come from us, but they all come from the same place. That's story. That's storytelling, and I love it. And for me, when I listened to Ben Affleck and listened to him tell the story with such emotion, and he himself got emotional, and you could see it. You have to see this video. You see it on his face. He gets emotional when he gives his son the presents from Adam Driver. And the thing is that he's kind of stopped describing like what was happening, but you could see in the face and the emotion exactly what happened, exactly what it is for an 8-year-old boy to get presents from his hero, and just to live in that moment, for that to be the best thing ever, that you carry it with you, that I, at this age, carry it with me, that I remember Luke Skywalker on the skiff, flipping up from the platform. It gets me every time. When I'm in a bad mood or having a tough day or just something, I'll just go straight to the Starlight Pit scene, and I don't know what happens, but it takes me right back to that moment, and I relive it as a child, and just the emotion. I could hear the audience clapping and cheering. I can feel it as we all stood up on our feet and just went nuts, like it was some kind of soccer game and someone scored a goal, or it was a basketball game and someone just got the shot in from the half court at the buzzer, and we just went nuts because they won because of that. And it's that kind of thing. It's that kind of, it was, and it's still with me. And this is the power of storytelling. And you don't shy away from it, embrace it, accept it, and then use it to start to deconstruct what makes good storytelling, bringing these emotions forward, how it comes. Like, really pay attention to that as you go through. It's amazing. I'm floored by it, and I'm so grateful for Ben to share this with us. I'm so grateful for Jimmy Kimmel to allow it to be shared with us. It's just something that we need to reflect on. So the two things combined, the Ben Affleck story and the film Crit Hulk's video, really brought together for me aspects of storytelling that I didn't really think about. In a lot of ways, they're organic and probably not really meant for you to bog yourself down. So for me, the biggest thing, particularly in writing, is unblocking myself. And it's not, I don't mean writer's block. I can't really describe it, but I will try to, it's sort of simply to say all the things that sort of have you bothered in your head. It's releasing those so that you're free to write, to live in your world, to love your world, to love the story that you're putting out there, and gets you to a place where you're not even worried if anybody reads it, because oftentimes that's the case. But but the idea is that you are free, and the writing is as much catharsis for you as anyone else, and that it's something that you love and enjoy, and it's freeing for you. So when I sort of mention unblocking, I'm sort of talking about this aspect of our heads are cluttered, and it's not just the uncluttering or decluttering, but being able to more or less sort of push it aside, so you're open to the story and to what you're trying to accomplish in the story. I mean, I've watched many a documentary, read quite a few books on George Lucas and how he did Star Wars, and he was racked the whole time with, I mean, the man was basically on a verge of breakdown the whole time he was filming Star Wars. Nothing went right. he wasn't sure if it was going to turn into anything, but he kept pushing and pushing and pushing through, and obviously it became the thing that it became. And Film Crit Hulk really does this wonderful job of bringing that to the fore, but understand from the storytelling side what it means, that you have to not just be uninhibited. That's not what I'm trying to say, but that you really do need to have an openness about you. You have to have the ability to wear your heart on your sleeve, just as we see Ben Affleck tell this story about his son. This man, and one of the reasons why we get emotional and he gets emotional is because he's really wearing his heart on his sleeve. He's putting himself out there to tell this story, and we love him for that. I love him for that. I love the story. It's something that again brought me back to my own youth and made me reminisce about my hero, Luke Skywalker, and all the things that he meant to me and all the difficulties when I was growing up, how Luke Skywalker got me through it. Star Wars got me through it. It was something that I could always lean back on, and the funny part was I never got lost. I mean, I always wished Star Wars is real, but I never got lost in Star Wars. There was always some sort of famous story that Alec Guinness was concerned about a young man who watched Star Wars too much. But, the idea is we all watch Star Wars too much, but not because we were avoiding real life, but because somehow through all storytelling of this ilk, of this mythological aspect, we find something in ourselves and it helps us carry forward in our real life. I mean, how many times have we just closed our eyes and tried to use the Force to make the light change while we're waiting at a red light, or just some odd aspect that we're channeling through us. Again, I can't help but smile and tell you that there's so many different ways that Star Wars brings me happiness, and that's the power of storytelling. The ability to bring something to someone that they didn't otherwise have. So all of this is just absolutely wonderful. It is just amazing. To catch up a little bit with me, I finally published the story on Wattpad that I've been speaking about. I'll put a link in the description below. I'm working on the sequel to The Shields of Gideon Prime. I'm working on several stories, including continuing Wattpad. My ambition, I'm being particularly ambitious. We're going to see how this goes, and I'll keep you guys posted in future videos how this is going. So far, it's okay. The idea with Wattpad is to, just like YouTube and everything else I'm going to be trying to do this year, is to start to garner an audience for my storytelling, in the hopes that I'll have a loyal fan base in the years to come that will enjoy my stories. So Wattpad is meant to be an ongoing series that takes place in the Gideon Star universe. I'm working on the second, they're meant to be short stories, so the second short story, and hopefully we'll have that soon, about halfway done with it. While I do that, I am also working on the sequel to Gideon Star, The Shields of Gideon Prime. So that should be fun. I'm also about halfway through that as well. Interesting. And then I had an actual sort of idea that came to me, Sword and Sorcery. Well, I've been mulling around an idea for a while, but it sort of solidified for me, I guess is maybe a fair way of saying it. A Sword and Sorcery story that might qualify as YA, so that should be interesting. I'm just going to write it. I'm not going to put a genre to it, but it might be interesting there too. For me, oftentimes writing just calls to me, in different ways. And sometimes, for me, this is not a recommendation by any means at all, but for me, I find giving space. So while I'm working on the Wattpad thing, I feel like my subconscious or unconscious is I actually this is it. The Sword and Sorcery, as I was sort of writing about it, I started to get ideas for Gideon Star, or the Gideon Star universe, and it sort of seems like as my break rests on one, it's allowed to sort of be free for the other. So I find working or thinking or being able to think about different stories in different genres and different contexts very illuminating and helps me with my writing. So so far it hasn't stretched me. So far it hasn't frustrated me. So I'll let you know how it goes. But so far it's going very well. And again, I hope to have the second Wattpad story available in the coming weeks, I hope. But that's basically an update for me, and I'll keep you guys posted on everything else that's going. But what about you? Who is your childhood hero? Please let me know in the comment sections below, and give me a little story if you can about what your hero means to you. Please like and subscribe, and remember, keep writing.